So depending on the nature of your organization, you have options. So if we look at timesheets as an example, and we click on the timesheet icon, when we click New, we're presented with a timesheet form based on the administrative services. You can choose the columns that you want to include. And because we're integrated to PJC, there's a listing of PJC contracts that this employee is working on and project details that they could assign their time to, as well as a category, and then the pay code. Now, you can add notes. This is a good customer, and that note will flow with the timesheet details. This is our standard timesheet entry, so this is where I'm just entering the time. And notice that it skipped over Saturday, Sunday. I have control in the back office when I'm looking at my timesheet options, whether I want to be able to set up specific dates and times or restrict access on the timesheet for not allowing time on holidays based on the calendar or on weekends. I can also override the unit cost on the PJC time card. So if I want to use a payroll rate rather than a cost rate in PJC, that is possible. Also note that when I'm on a particular cell, I can add a comment. And this comment will also flow with the timesheet details. And notice there's a little blue asterisk. And when I hover over the cell, the comment is displayed. Now, if there were contract details that I wanted to attach, then we also support document attachment. So I could say there are some contract details. I want to browse and pick up what those contract details are. So if I go to documents, this can be any file format that you like. It could be a PDF, an Excel sheet, a Word doc, really doesn't matter to us. Any document is fine. Now, if you're using our scheduling tool, then you can copy timesheets from a previous period. You can also assign different employees to the schedule and generate their timesheets automatically, and then they just review them. And they don't have to go in and enter all this information. Now, of course, I could enter a number of different lines here for different jobs that I was working on. Just for expediency in the demo, I'm going to just do one line. I could have also included leave codes as well. So I could choose, instead of a pay code, I could choose an overtime and calculate my overtime manually, or let the system calculate the overtime. So it just depends on how you've configured the system as to what you want to see. Now I'm going to add another day of time to make it an even 40. And you notice here I could have added another line, but we'll remove that. When I save the timesheet, it's available to be submitted. When I submit, it pushes it into an approval workflow. And this will display the approval audit trail, so I know which manager is going to be doing the approval, and that's Marilyn. Now, just to take a couple of minutes on the approval workflow, these approval workflows are configured in the back office by document type. So with the approval workflow, I could do it for expenses, I could do it for timesheets, leave requests, but just very quickly, notice that we use email as an alert function when timesheets are submitted, rejected, or approved, because we give you the option to create your own email templates, and you can choose again by document type the kind of information you want to put into the email, so you can let people know when their timesheet was approved, if it was rejected, with notes about why it was rejected, and when it's been submitted, an approval reminder to the manager to get it approved, and a link to the URL so they can click on that link on their smartphone, and it will take them to the approval console in Resource Manager. So these approval workflows allow us to go in and define who participates in the workflow approval, whether it's a PJC contract manager or just a region, division, department manager, or my supervisor, which is defined as a direct report in the system. And then I can also build in my own decision actions as well. So in the case where I wanted to create an approval workflow, let's say around an expense report, and I wanted this to have some additional business logic, we have what's called a decision action. And that decision action gives me the ability to create my own business logic. In this case, it's a dollar value threshold. So I could say that any expenses under $200 don't need approval, but between 200 and 500, one level of approval, and above 500, 2 or 3 levels of approval. And I can also add my own custom variables, link it to budget controls, or other criteria that I need to specify to meet my particular organization's policies around approving expense reports, or for that matter, timesheets. So I just thought I'd take a moment to describe that process that is configurable in the back office. But I've submitted the timesheet, and now I will log in as Marilyn to the appropriate Sage 300 company, and I will approve the timesheet based on my to approve list. Now I could have approved this on the smartphone as well, so either way is perfectly valid. There's the timesheet entry that's been submitted, and I see the attachment, and I can open up that attachment and view the contract details, which is what we're building, I guess. And then the timesheet entries, the comments are here, this is a great job, and the note. Now I could transfer this to another manager and say I'd like you to take a look at this as well, and that would be an ad hoc change to the workflow. So even though we've defined a set workflow, if there are extenuating circumstances, you can always transfer and have another person approve. As a manager, I could also see in a multi-level approval environment who else has reviewed and approved this timesheet so far. If the manager was away, they can substitute another manager, so there are no bottlenecks in the system. But if they forget to substitute, there is a to-do list in the admin portal that allows us by company, so if we're looking at the PJC only company, that timesheet that was just created today by Freddie and needs to be, or by Robert, sorry, and needs to be approved by Marilyn, if we know Marilyn is away and she forgot to substitute, we could do the approval as a back office function, or we could transfer to another manager and make sure this timesheet gets approved on a timely basis. So just wanted to highlight that very quickly as another way of ensuring that there's proper flow through of these documents in the system. So I'm going to go ahead and approve, say OK. And when I approve this timesheet, it's removed from the approval portal. And where does it go? It goes directly into Sage 300. When we talk about true integration, this is what we're referring to. The timesheet batch is created in Sage 300 for the transaction that we just set up today. It knows that it's from the employee self-service portal, and all of the details captured in the portal are now a transaction batch within Sage 300. No importing or exporting, no rekeying, no special integration required. We've taken care of all of that for you. So the customer details with the PJC project, the role, the division that applies, the note that we added, and then the individual time entry details. So you will see any comments or notes attached here. This is a great job. The rates. Now this could be overridden in the back office if you want to. I could reject this, I could modify the rates, but I've got the approval audit trail with who's submitted and approved this timesheet. I have any attachments that are visible in the back office, any optional field information, and the document details. And if I'm okay with this, I would just, because I know it's already been approved at an operational level, I can go ahead and post this, or I could ask for other changes or make those changes automatically from within Sage 300. Now you notice that a transaction error batch has been created because some of the details weren't correct. So it is validating the data that's coming across to make sure that only information that matches what's in the system is going to be recorded. But ultimately, what you would do is the time cards as they're submitted in the system will be set up as timesheet entries, either for expense detail against a time card entry or against timesheet details. So these timesheet details will be set up as project lines in the system and updated for the number of hours, the unit cost, and the wages and benefit account for the payroll accrual, as well as the work in progress account for the job costing. So ultimately, these time card entries are going to be set up based on the time cards that are approved through Resource Manager. And that's how we streamline the entry and approval process around timesheets and getting cost information updated to your PJC jobs.